Oh man.
Way through. Well, why are you boring me? I'm right.
What's up, y'all? So when I heard the Switch 2 announced, I made some videos about the Switch 2, Nintendo, and console gaming in general. I feel like console gaming is kind of going downhill. So I made a video critiquing each of the consoles. There was one about PlayStation, which was pretty well received. There was one with Xbox, which was mixed. Which, to be fair, the Xbox video was a bit ranty. And I just want to know if you guys are still out there. There's no like hate or dissing or anything. Like, for real though, does anybody still play up on Xbox? Like, damn. And even still, there were a lot of people with a sense of humor, and I genuinely don't mind the Xbox fan base. And then there's Nintendo. At the end of the day, if you're a hardcore Nintendo fan, you're dead set on buying a console. I'm not here to stop you. I never was. The video was more of a jokey, lighthearted video. I have an espresso in the video and I just explained to the general public why Nintendo Switch wasn't that great of an overall improvement. And there's also the fact that Nintendo's ruining gaming for everyone. So there's that. Even though I thought the video was in a lighthearted manner, I guess I upset a lot of Nintendo fans. And I admit, I accidentally said the screen was 720p. I honestly don't even know why I said that. Must have been a brain fart. But it completely pretty much invalidated the whole video in a lot of people's eyes. So that's why another reason I'm redoing this, to get the facts straight, not spread any misinformation. But moving on, if you're 100% gonna get the Switch or already own the Switch, this video is not for you. This is for people who are on the fence and want to know if it's really worth it to get a Switch, because I did some research into the matter a lot, and I can tell you, it's honestly, I was wrong about it. It's worse than I thought it was, to be real. Like, guys, I don't know who you think I am behind the computer screen, but I grew up on Nintendo just like y'all. Like, I'm a fan of these franchises. It's just, we gotta be real when we see it.
Nothing could ever make me justify what they're doing with the Switch 2. And as someone who was once the pinnacle of a Nintendo adult, I have to call it how I see it.
And like I said, if you own a Switch and you're happy with it, that's fine. You don't click off this video, it's not for you. So you guys can't get mad at me in the comment section. I completely support your right to buy a Nintendo console. The reason I'm making these videos is because I am passionate about gaming, specifically console gaming, and I view this as a subpar product personally, and I'm going to explain that why to the general public. I'm not insulting Switch owners. That's one thing about Switch fans. For people who love such wholesome franchise, you guys are pretty rude for no reason. So I'll be real, after making that video, I have a poor opinion for Switch enthusiasts, but that's just the hardcore ones. In general, I'm going to be neutral and express if it's worth it to get a Switch or just to wait. I'm not even saying don't buy the console. I'm just going to give you some explanations of why I've come to the conclusion that you really should wait on this console. It's really not worth it to go super hardcore first early adapter, in my opinion, but we'll go over it. So let's start with the positives before we get into the negatives. It is a general overall improvement from the Switch 1. It's slightly bigger joysticks, bigger screen, bigger console.
Imagine the Switch's screen, but bigger. I like that.
180p screen, which is not OLED, by the way, so you guys do with that information what you will. But yeah, no more OLED screen, faster processing, faster loading times, capable of 120 frames. So basically a lot of Nintendo Switch gamers will be up to date, like a lot of PS5 and Xbox owners, finally. And that's pretty much all I can say for the positives. If you have been gaming on the Switch and the Switch alone for years and you're a dedicated Nintendo fan, which I honestly hope you already clicked off this video, like I said earlier. But if you're that kind of Nintendo fan, then yeah, this could probably be for you, because obviously all you've ever seen is like 30 frames per second, like Switch 1 graphics, and that thing was just, I mean, I swear some phones are more up to date than the Switch. So Switch 2 is a good upgrade. You can finally experience gaming in the modern era. Now, I think you'll notice with most videos that talk about the Switch, the positives being mentioned are pretty much just an upgraded system, how high quality the console feels, and how up to date it feels, but that doesn't really go further beyond that. So that's something that you should keep in mind. I'm just saying. However, my issue with even this positive is the fact that we're on the tail end of this console generation, so it's like a little too late. Another thing is that I'm no Digital Foundry guy, but the specs for this thing were said to be somewhere in between a PS4 and a PS4 Pro.
I think Nintendo has officially turned away a chunk of every demographic of Switch user.
all that was really remaining were the power users, the only subset of fans that were still pretty tied to this thing. So as a bit of a quick summary, we're looking at an 8-core GPU versus a 4 that was on the Switch 1, 12 gigabytes of RAM versus 3 gigabytes of RAM, 1536 CUDA cores versus 256 on the Switch. Is it pronounced CUDA or is it CUDA? I've always just said CUDA, like Barracuda. So it's definitely faster than the Switch 1, which should be great if you're looking to play indie games for another 5 years.
That's what I've heard. I've also heard somewhere in between a PS4 Pro and a PS5. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's still underperforming compared to its counterparts. Also, apparently the battery life is not very good. Part of it is because this current Switch is running more things in the background. It's just a beefier system, so obviously it's going to take more energy, and that's not very good for a handheld console. Unless you have something to plug it into nearby, you're not going to get the craziest use out of this in handheld mode, which is one of its biggest strengths. So that's an issue. When it comes to space on the Switch, it does have much more space than the previous one. However, I'm not gonna lie to you, the whole keycard game card thing was very confusing to me. But basically, you can buy digitally with these key cards where you don't actually own the game. You basically only own a license to play the game, and this thing could take up to 25% of your space on your Switch. Cyberpunk is like 64 gigs on a key card. You can get these things in a game cartridge physically, and it'll be a lot less space. But Nintendo pushing people towards not owning their games is just not a good look.
And if you've seen some of my more recent videos regarding video game ownership and the importance of physical media, many of you know that the Switch 2 is not really looking like a console that is very consumer friendly on that front, especially with how they're kind of subjecting most third-party developers to either go with a high-capacity SD card that's holds 64 gigabytes, and the rumor is it costs $15 or $16 a pop for those, which is a pretty large margin taken out of their profit if they want to go on those consoles and release them physically. Versus the game key card, which is much cheaper, but all it's really doing is directing you to the eShop where you do not own these games, and kind of pushing us more towards the digital future. So that's just something that, in principle, I don't really want anything to do with.
Another issue with the gaming situation with the Switch is that they're marking up a lot of their old games. So a lot of old Switch games that were going for like $40 are now $80 again, which I just think is absolutely ridiculous. Like, that's just me personally. There's the welcome tour you have to pay for, which is more of an insult than anything.
Yeah, I don't think those prices. I mean, welcome tour, I still think it should be a pack-in, and I think it is.
Oh, definitely.
It's just so cheeky that it's not, you know?
Also, there's no VRR in dock mode, which is personal because a lot of Nintendo fans on my previous video gaslit me and said it did. And if you don't know what VRR is, it's called variable refresh rate. I just learned it while researching for this. And apparently, when you connect your Switch to your TV is running at a certain frame rate, right? And it doesn't always match the video game. So VRR makes sure that the frame rate of your TV always matches the video game. And if you do not have VRR, you'll get a lot of stuttering and what's called screen tearing. Screen tearing is when you see multiple frames on the same screen. So like you'll see two different frames for one single frame, if that makes sense. You're seeing multiple frames at the same time, which is not good. Long story short, there is a huge list of games that are not backwards compatible with the Switch 2 currently, and Nintendo has not really been doing much to lower that list of games.
This is some interesting piece of information that I think may paint more of a picture about some of the concerns I had with backward compatibility in my previous video, and of course the one that I made, a couple of years ago now. Now, if we go ahead and jump in and take a look, we can basically see that Nintendo has provided an update to their compatibility tests of Nintendo Switch games on Nintendo Switch 2, and you can see that the update was on the 15th of April. The previous one was on the 1st of April, so it's been about, 14, 15 days, couple of weeks since the last test, and it says the next update is planned for May. So it seems like Nintendo is doing a bi-weekly or every couple of weeks they'll update this compatibility list. But what you'll notice is, at least from the jump, you'll see that there's nothing that has really changed here. If you take a look at these charts, we can still see pretty much the same percentage of games that have no issues, and then obviously all the bigs of these 15,000 partner games that are still being currently tested. And this is a little bit interesting to see this because in the last video that I made, I kind of felt like that this blue list would start to get bigger as this kind of light blue list starts to shrink. And it doesn't seem like there has been much as far as testing or maybe some updates.
So if you were to get a Switch 2, there's a good chance that some of your more obscure games just won't have an updated patch for them. And I already don't have to tell you about the ridiculous prices on the Switch. I mean, with the Mario Kart bundle in Canada, you're looking at something like $700. And then that doesn't even count the ridiculous amount of accessories Nintendo likes to sell you. Like
the Nintendo Switch 2 will be $449. Bundle with Mario Kart World, $499. Mario Kart World will be $80. Switch 2 Pro controller is $79.99. Joy-Con 2 controllers, $89.99. Joy-Con 2 charging grip, $34.99. Joy-Con 2 straps, $12.99. 2 Joy-Con wheels, $19.99. The Nintendo Switch 2 camera, $49.99. Nintendo Switch 2 dock set, $109.99. Carrying case and screen protector, $34.99. All-in-one carrying case, $79.99. AC adapter, $29.99. Nintendo Switch 2 with Mario Kart World with all accessories and an extra set of Joy-Con dock and AC adapter, $1,031.90. What do you think of the pricing? Let us know. The Nintendo Switch 2,
which is kind of overpriced for what it is. Either way, you're going to be paying a lot for accessories. It's the Nintendo way. I mean, does anybody still use their Jamboree Congo drums? Anybody? And I just don't feel right knowing Nintendo can brick my console at any moment, and they are listening in on their microphones in case you say something wrong. And who really knows the extent of this issue, the bricking of your console? So we will see with that. But the fact that they wrote it in not only their Switch 2 terms of service, but also the Switch 1 terms of service, I just find it very anti-consumer. And I could go on and on about the anti-consumer business practices. I mean, in interviews, they've basically stated if you cannot afford the Switch 2, you go buy a Switch 1, broke boy.
We recognize there are some people that may not be able to afford the Switch 2's price point, including the console and the games. That's why we wanted to make the other Switch platforms available, so people still have an opportunity to come into our gaming universe, be part of these characters in these worlds, and see value, if you will, in whatever rung of the platform they come in. He's straight up calling you broke. 8 years ago that we've already been selling. Go buy that, brokey. Like that.
I'm paraphrasing, but still. There's the fact that you need to pay to access the mic and the chat button and internet in general. You always need a subscription with this. The fact that you need to pay a subscription service in order to access your mic and communicate with other players. You need to be subscribed to Nintendo for that, which I think is unfair. And there's a looming threat of your console being bricked if you misbehave by Nintendo standards. I mean, this is mostly to combat pirators and stuff like that, but in general, it does give you less options for your Switch. But I think the main reason to hold out on the Switch 2 is it's just that there's no reason to really get it right now. I mean, the only thing they got is Mario Kart World, and I mean, is Mario Kart really a system seller? I've been watching reviews about the game, and most people are not impressed. I mean, that's all subjective. You can watch Mario Kart reviews if you want. Overall, I've seen that people are mildly dissatisfied with Mario Kart and the Switch in general right now. But if it's worth it to you just to see those up-to-date frame rates, then maybe.
Entire videos off of this, I know I have, where the latest is that if Nintendo suspects that you are using something pirated, they can brick your entire console. I try to wrap my head around this. Then you have Nintendo advocating for their games to be, what, $70+? Upwards of $80? Mario Kart World? Mario Kart.
But unless you only play on Nintendo, I don't see a reason to upgrade right now. And what's even worse is we just be rewarding bad behavior by Nintendo. So for me, it's the easiest wait on a console ever in my life. This is like one of the most underwhelming console releases I've seen. But yeah, I don't see any reason to get a Switch 2. It's the easiest wait on a sale for me. How are you guys feeling? What are your guys' thoughts on the Switch 2? Did you get one? And what have you guys heard about it? I'd like to know. It is what it is. Peace. Oh yeah, one more thing. Is anybody else kind of irritated at YouTubers who made all this massive hoopla, screaming from the rooftops not to buy the Switch, and then the next thing you know, every single Switch hater is doing a Switch unboxing video? It's like, I understand it can technically be a tax write-off, and it's very profitable for your channel to review a Switch at the peak popularity, but god damn, is it a bad look. I don't know. Irritates me. Now I understand why I get a lot of flack as a YouTuber, because like the way some of these YouTubers act, I can understand why most people don't trust YouTubers. But it is what it is. Peace.